Good morning, everyone. I like being up a little closer. That feels like I'm so far back. I'm Carol Johnson. I'm a parish associate here at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, and we welcome all of you who are here in person and all of you who are here virtually. If you notice, we were showing, and we still are, the people on Zoom. So wave, everybody. Hi. We're so glad to know that you're here and that we're all together, no matter where we may be. Please let us know that you're here. Sign in on the turquoise friendship tablets, or sign into Zoom in the chat. Or if you're on the YouTube, there's a friendship area to be able to sign as well. You'll see that some people are wearing masks and others are not. We are mask friendly, we'll say. They're optional, not required, but please be sensitive to the needs and concerns of those around you. Some of us are immune compromised, and if you're not feeling well, please stay home. We will miss you, but we'll miss you less than if you come and spread whatever you have. So, Jim, you're going to talk about the signature before. Okay, we're collecting signatures. Yeah, let's do that now.
Welcome, everybody. The wonderful thing about coming back from COVID is we each get our own row. So if you want to stretch out, that's absolutely fine. Aida, would y'all mind coming forward just to... People anywhere close to the border who have family on both sides of the equation find themselves in a really horrible situation. And Aida has family who needed transportation, which she provided, and then was arrested, is facing possibly 10 years in prison. So when you get home today, if you've been coming, there's an e-news. We want to get as many signatures as we can to say that, you know, she is from our neighborhood, at least work-wise. So we want to support her as best we can. Would you mind saying a couple of words?
Yes, I want to thanks to everybody. I really appreciate it. You're not having no idea how much my family and I, pain we have in it. We go through. My son, he did graduation this past Friday, and he knows the situation. So all my family go through really hard time. So I want to say thank you so much, everyone, and asking to see if you can keep in prayer for me and my family, please. Thank you.
Aida, we love and support you. We will be having a brief congregational meeting after this, but before the benediction. Don't worry, it's really brief. We're just going to be selecting our committee that searches for new session members for 2023. So if you stay, you'll know who to talk with if you're interested in being on the session, or if you have an idea of someone who would be great to be on the session. Our bathrooms are under renovation. The bathroom's right there. So you can use bathrooms in the children's wing or the new bathrooms in the new wing area. And there's good signage. Yeah, they're through that door and off to the right. There's good signage where the old bathrooms were, pointing you in the right direction. And finally, if you could check out any tables in our mission area after church, we leave any new information that we have for you out there. And with that, happy Memorial Day, everyone. You are here, and you and your memories are all welcome here for this Memorial Day.
Some of us don't look at our computer in time to get the information we need. And so we kind of fumble through. With the help of friends, I invite you to join with us in our call to community. Out of a community of diverse heritage and belief, we come together to share our hope and to create good in the world. The prophets of all traditions and times have taught that we are all called to mercy, generosity, and mutual care. And that to be great is to serve. We know that there can be no enduring happiness for humanity so long as suffering and want go unrelieved. Until all may be sheltered, none of us is truly at home. May the power of our various faiths sustain us in this work, that we may be the hands of holy creativity and justice, and together build a better world.
And now we come to the time in our service for what we say, the young and young at heart. Thank you for being here. Thank you. We actually have some children that come to the first service. I'm always impressed when the older kids are willing to help us like that. So thank you.
We hear that Mr. Monkey is on a cruise, so he won't be with us today.
He didn't take us with him, did he?
No, no, he
Oh,
certainly
yeah.
didn't, but, well, all right. Hello, everyone. Mwah. Hello, it's always
Hello, hello.
wonderful to be with you. Hello.
Well, Hortense, I have bad news.
Oh, what's that?
Well, my grandpa Turtle is here, and all he wants to talk about is the good old days and how much better things were back then.
Oh, I'm sure it's not that bad.
Well, oh, hello there, Grandpa Turtle. This is our puppet show. Welcome.
Well, when I was your age,
Yeah,
we didn't have any fancy puppets.
I bet you used sock puppets with buttons for eyes.
Oh, we couldn't afford buttons.
No, of course you couldn't.
We had to find used cough drops for eyes.
Oh,
We were happy to have them. Those were the good old days. I tell you what. I
Good
tell
old
you.
days. See what I'm talking about?
oh, well, I think every day is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think we should be happy today. Look at all the beautiful colors outside.
Oh, yeah, back in my day, we didn't have colors. Everything was in black and white.
What about rainbows?
Well, I didn't even know that rainbows were in color till I got a new television set.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been very hard.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
Why, a box of Crayolas didn't come with all them fancy pants colors. We just had two colors, black and white.
Yeah.
But we were grateful. Those were the good
Good
old days.
days.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Now, Grandpa Turtle, I believe these are the good old days. Whether we're 1 or 100, this is the only day we have. Let's agree to be grateful this day. Could we sing a song?
Well, I bet we can.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. In his day, we didn't
Oh,
have
look, there's
music.
the guitar. Yeah, there's a guitar right behind me.
Well, that's convenient. Good.
Yeah. And I wore my tap shoes, so I.
Oh, well.
Okay, we tried a new song. We tried the first service. It went okay. It's a little shaky, because we're kind of writing it as we go a little bit. And it'll go, when you see hate, and you'll say,
When you see hate,
you gotta love.
you gotta love.
When you see snakes,
When you see snakes,
you be the dove.
you be the dove.
When you see hate,
When you see hate,
you gotta love.
you gotta love.
Brilliant lyrics. When you see hate,
When you see hate,
you gotta love.
you gotta love.
When you see snakes,
When you see snakes,
you be the dove.
you be the dove.
When you see hate,
When you see hate,
you got to love.
you got to love. Coming back around.
When you see hate. See, this is the blues. That syncopated rhythm is, it's hard, but when you see hate, you gotta love. When you see snakes, you be the dove. When you see hate, You gotta love. Thank you. Yeah. I get out of here. Oh, you youngins. Okay.
Jesus just left Chicago and is bound for New Orleans.
He's accusing me of ripping that off from ZZ Top. Can you believe that? Well, I'm glad breaking my guitar made you all happy. Yeah, that's true.
I will be reading two scripture this morning. The first is Isaiah 57, verses 4 through 8. You have no desire for truth in your courts, and none of you testifies truthfully. You rely on empty pleas and lies. You conceive oppression and give birth to sin. You hatch adder's eggs and weave spider's webs. Those who eat their eggs will die because what is hatched is a viper. Your spider's webs are useless as clothing. No one can use them to cover themselves. Your works are deeds of iniquity. You commit acts of violence. Your feet rush into crime. Quickly they shed innocent blood. You have nothing but harmful ideas, leaving a trail of havoc and ruin. You don't know the way of peace. Your paths are not paths to justice. Your roads are crooked roads, and those who walk them never know peace. Our second reading is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verses 41 through 44. Coming within sight of Jerusalem, Jesus swept over it and said, "If only you had known the path to peace today. But now it has been hidden from your eyes. Days will come upon you when the enemies will encircle you with rampart, hem you in and press you hard from every side. They'll wipe you out and your children within the walls, and won't leave one stone on top of another within you, because you failed to recognize the time you had, a time of your visit from God." Ancient words from our tradition, read for our present day understanding.
Didn't Eddie do a good job? Thank you, Eddie. Well, thank you for showing up today. And if you're on Zoom, thank you. It's kind of lonely in here when there's nobody shows up. So it's good to see you all, especially in like really hard times. I'd started a series that I'm already having to jettison this week because of the shooting. And I figured that's where my mind's going to be. That's probably where your mind and heart are going to be. So there's not a lot to say. You can't come up with words that make this make sense. But maybe just being together and caring has a kind of healing effect. We put out on our electronic sign, does the Second Amendment trump the Sixth Commandment? Expected a little feedback from that. I mean, I believe in the wall of separation between church and state, so I don't want commandments being foisted on people anyway, but that was addressed to Christian nationalism, where people claim to be followers of Jesus and yet are like unrecognizable when it comes to things like kindness and stuff. So we got one feedback, somebody saying it's too soon, always, right? Too soon, and it's politicizing this tragedy. And you've heard the response. It's because they took prayer out of school. Which is very strange. I mean, if God was doing the shooting, then yeah, say, please stop it, God. But if we're doing the shooting, and if it's the culture and the mindset of a nation, then we just need to be repenting. We don't need to be giving advice. And when people say it's too soon, here's the problem with that. It's the 146th day of the year. We've already had 212 mass shootings. When isn't it too soon? It's hard to take that in and to realize that we have tried the path of violence, I think, as far down the road as you can go. We have more of our citizens in prison. We wreak havoc and hell on people in the border. Our economy is based on exploiting and extracting from other parts of the world. And whether you're liberal, conservative, you probably don't want to hear that. But to realize when we look at Donald Trump, this isn't political, this isn't partisan. We're seeing a mirror. We're seeing the dishonesty. We're seeing the greed, the selfishness, which has been a cancer in the bloodstream of the United States since our founding. Wouldn't it be good to take a different path? Because we certainly can. And certainly as a church. We're looking at today that passage, which has always been very powerful to me, where Jesus is starting to come into Jerusalem. You have all of the celebration stuff, but before he comes in, he stops to cry. Because he looks at Jerusalem, he looks at the country he loves, he looks at the religion that he loved. He was never left any of those things. But he realized how every one of them had sold out to the problem. I forgot, I have slides. Someday I'm going to get this down, I think, maybe, but don't bet money on it. So, okay, so this is the story of Jesus weeping. Next slide. This comes from a convenience store within a mile from here. It's a Christian cross with guns and bullet holes in the cross, which I wouldn't think would make Jesus too happy. I wouldn't think. How did white evangelical Christianity get to this? Where some of the loudest voices justifying the violence that has seized our country is coming from churches, in particular white churches. So Jesus wept. And he said, Jerusalem's going to fall. The nation is going to fall. There won't be one rock on top of another rock. Now, I'm going to try to get some good news out of that, because I think there is good news. Because Jesus wasn't trying to get people to be good religious people, good patriots. He was trying to get them to be good human beings. And a good human being, a decent human being, an ethical human being is a citizen of the whole world. Your sense of justice doesn't begin and end at your own boundaries. And it doesn't begin and stop at your level of class struggle. It includes everybody. And it's love, it's compassion, but it's love in practice in the form of justice. And that's where Isaiah, Jesus is when he says, you didn't know what makes for peace. He didn't finish the quote. Isaiah finishes the quote that it's justice. It's justice that makes peace. You can't just get the tools of violence and protect peace and expect justice to come out of that. When there is oppression, there cannot be peace. An economy based on exploiting other economies around the world cannot know peace. So the way out is to repent. And when after a sermon like this, people say, well, where's the hope? The hope is repent, right? Change course. Nothing is forcing us to be like this. But we have to step out of that system, that mindset, that false religion that goes by the name of Christianity, that sells out every point on the Sermon on the Mount, every one of them. You lift up the Sermon on the Mount, you don't ever hear these white Christian nationalists quoting Jesus, turn the other cheek, share everything. You never hear money's the root of all evil. That's kind of an interesting biblical verse that kind of gets left out of the conversation. But the good news is not if we keep going the same way, everything's going to get better, because it won't. The good news is if we change course, we can yet save the nation. But even if we can't save the nation, we can be good stewards of the world population. Because what's good for America is not necessarily good for the rest of the world. So I think the good news is it's saying if you let go of the things that are killing you, you can find life. So I hear Jesus saying 3 bits of good news, but to be good news, we have to look at ourselves differently. The first thing I think that Jesus is saying that most Americans aren't agree with is that violence is not true power. This is Memorial Day weekend. I'm very grateful for people who risked their lives or gave their life for our freedoms. But I'm very sad that so many of the people who have died were actually fighting for corporate interests elsewhere. And it's false patriotism not to ask the question, why are we going to war? Once you're on the battlefield, you can't do that. And you're not really asking the question if you don't ask about the economic system. Who profits? With the weapons industry, who profits? Who's getting rich and who's being impoverished? Those are important questions. We see those pictures. I think we're still this slide, but go to the next one. Okay, we're almost there. This is foreshadowing. It's brilliant technique. I think you'll agree. How did this worship of flags and guns infest the Christian church? Because it's a cancer. How did it get there? Have you ever noticed that the Bible Belt, if you put the chalk line around the Bible Belt, it's suspiciously the Confederate States of America? Isn't that kind of interesting? You trace it, and it's basically those southern states. So is it a surprise when people from that worldview are calling for states' rights? Is it a surprise when people that profit from the weapons industry say, well, you just need more prayer? Prayer in schools. You can pray in schools, you just can't force other people to pray. So Isaiah's talking about this. This is nothing new. This obviously goes back to Jesus' time and before Jesus' time. This is the prophet Isaiah. And a prophet wasn't a fortune teller. A prophet told you the unpleasant truth. Like the prophet said, if you keep going in the direction you're going, you're gonna get where you're headed. Right? That doesn't take a whole lot of talent. If we keep emptying our economy into violence and let children suffer for lack of nutrition, where's that going to end? How can anybody even put the word great and America in the same sentence if infants can't get formula? If it's easier to get a gun than infant formula? What is great about that? Listen to the words of the prophet. They hatch the eggs of vipers. Now, isn't that kind of the libertarian viewpoint? It's each of us for ourselves. And if we maximize selfishness, then that'll work out well for everybody. That was called in the Christian text, brood of vipers. And I don't think it's name calling. If I'm only for myself, I cannot be your friend, not a true friend. And even if I don't know you, I owe you that as one human being to another. So Isaiah said that. He says their cobwebs are useless for clothing. They cannot cover themselves with what they make. Think how much of our focus goes into things that don't feed, clothe, bring health care, nurture the planet. See, that's insanity. It was insanity with Isaiah. It was insanity with Jesus, and it's insanity today. He says, the way of peace they do not know. There is no justice in their paths. They have turned them into crooked roads. No one who walks along them will know peace. That kind of says it, I think. So where are we? Okay, we're there. Now, I think it's a mistake to see ourselves as victims of this brutal violence. That's not what Jesus is calling us to do or to be. We are being called to be catalysts of change, of a new age. And it's understood this is going to happen in community. See, that's one of the missing elements in modern American society, is just community. Somebody who notices a teen who's troubled and notices they just bought 2 automatic weapons or semi-automatic. Don't come to me after the sermon to say AR-15. I don't care what the nomenclature is. Please. They're military grade weapons that have no business being in anybody's hand, much less an 18-year-old. So this idea of the silence of the lambs, where Clarice is talking to, that's Jodie Foster's character, is talking to Anthony Hopkins' character. He was Hannibal Lecter. She was Clarice. And she's talking to him, and there's this sense of realizing he's not coming from a place that's a normal human being. Right? This is a predator. And he's looking for victims. We have to realize there's that element in the United States. That doesn't mean you have to hate anybody. Doesn't mean you have to hurt anybody necessarily. But to realize that when we act like democracy is intact, when voting rights are suspect, that's naive to the point of insanity. That's like you're playing poker and somebody's cheating, you know they're cheating, so you want to keep going till you get your money back. Not real smart. If people cheat in elections, then it's going to take more than political organizing to counterbalance it. Political organizing is very important. Voting is very important. But we're going to have to hit the streets. And we're going to have to support the activists that have been working, all along to change the world. This is all a part of what love looks like in practice. In this verse, it sounds like it's saying, the Messiah came and you didn't spot it, so now you're in trouble. And that's one interpretation. I don't find that very convincing. The word that's used there for visitation is the word episcopal in Greek, which means bishop, overseer. So another way to understand this passage is you didn't realize when your duty came, when your chance at ministry came, when your chance came to stand up for other people who are in harm's way, and you just got numb. You just sank in despair. It's very understandable. But why not give your life courageously to your highest value? If you're going to die anyway, why not say, I'm going to choose hope every time. I'm going to live out of my highest value, win, lose, or draw. You can't change the insanity of the world, but what if we did that in community and supported each other? And when somebody burned out or got depressed, that was okay. If we're in community, we can step back when we're tired or wounded. Somebody else can take our place until we find our courage again. Yvonne graduated from middle school this week. When you feel helpless, don't forget that you helped that happen. Right? You help provide a place where an undocumented refugee who is being sought by the government to be deported graduated from middle school. And you want to hear the most ironic thing of all? He won the Good Citizenship Award. I hope somebody from the Biden administration notices that. What does it mean to be a good American? To have lots of flags, lots of guns? Or to believe that every person deserves the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? Those are two different Americas. And I think people have been serving the wrong America too long. Let's get back to the Declaration of Independence, that we want a city on a hill for all people. We want an ethics that doesn't stop at the boundary. And we want leadership that's not for sale. And you cannot do that within capitalism. By definition, you're doing your value equations by property rights within capitalism. It doesn't mean that you can't use some of capitalism. And I know people don't like to hear it, but I think this is what Isaiah would say. You cannot have a system of greed and save the planet. It will always be more cost efficient to pollute than to clean up, right? That's simply math. It will always be more cost efficient to deny medical care than to provide it. But here's the problem: what goes around comes around. And a disease in some other part of the world doesn't see your boundary. And so corrupt power destroys itself. And that's not true in the short run. It's not true necessarily in your particular lifetime. But over time, when you give your life to this long struggle, going back to Isaiah and before, for the betterment of humankind, when that's what your life is about, when you're going to pass your little torch down the road, when hope means giving yourself to your highest value, when it means choosing your hopes and not your fears to steer by, then the rest of your life, regardless of what happens in the external world, can be one of peace and value and dignity. But you have to reject the American empire to get to the American dream. And you have to reject the imperial Christ of European theology to get to the Jesus of the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, one more. I got kind of worked up today. Sorry about that. Where are we? Yes. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? That is the message that you and I have to take out into the world. It's what Isaiah said, is what Jesus said. America will never know peace. Will never know peace until there is justice. And that can be anywhere in the world. There's a wonderful, this is from Canada. So they're not real Americans, but they did a conversation with different First Nation people, indigenous people. And this has a quote, you've probably heard some of it before, but I'd never heard all of it. It goes, Canada, the most affluent of countries, operates on a depletion economy, which leaves destruction in its wake. Your people are driven by a terrible sense of deficiency. When the last tree is cut, when the last fish is caught, when the last river is polluted, when to breathe the air is sickening, you will realize too late that wealth is not in bank accounts and that you can't eat money. Kind of hard to argue with, isn't it? So here's the thing. Neither Isaiah or Jesus was asking you to be the Lone Ranger. You get tired, you get afraid, you get discouraged, all that thing. But what if you found a community of people who said, I'm going to, whenever I can, whenever I have the courage, I'm going to give my life to my highest value. And when I get too tired or afraid, I'll step back and you'll step in. And watch for me. We all get weak, we all get afraid. But what if a community did that? I believe that's what the early church was, which leads us to our next. The symbol of the ark now, I don't believe that really happened, but I believe it's happening all the time. That there are times when you can't save the whole world. So you save the piece of it you can. Your own soul, your family, your friends. Those who say yes to this calling are your true family at a time like this. That idea of coming together through the storm was one of the major symbols of the early church. Not to come together and just pray, God, please take guns out, but to change the world, to be a catalyst for change, to be an agent of change to the extent that you can. The rights we have came from people who live courageously in hopeless times. Do you understand that? You received a torch from people who are in much worse shape than you are. How can we not take it up and give it to the children of the future? So, these are my struggles with the text. I think it's good news, personally, if you say yes to it. I think it's simply hard news if you say no. We are made for each other. You don't have to believe in God, believe in evolution. Our lives intertwined. We are cells in a common body. You have a calling. Whether it comes from God or biology, those are technicalities. You can live a life of nobility, of peace, and of joy, no matter what happens to this country. If you say yes to that calling, if you realize that violence is not true power, that this nation is being killed by the things it's using to defend itself with, just like the dinosaurs, we're dying of our weapons. And second, that we don't have to be victims. If you give your life to your highest value, you can be on your deathbed and still change the world in some small way. coming from kindness, coming from love when nobody else is, telling the truth when nobody else is. It changes the whole equation. You may not live long enough to see the difference that you make. And then finally realizing that there is no peace without justice. That sharing the world fairly with everyone all across the globe is the first step towards the world that we all hope for. I want to close with a song we did in class today. And I don't think when your country's falling to fascism, this is really kind of hard to believe, but staying in touch with your kindness, your humanity, is where your power is going to come from. So this is a song by Nancy Lamott. First 3 verses. So many things we can't control. So many hurts that happen every day. So many heartaches that pierce the soul. So much pain that won't ever go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside, we all need the same things. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. I leave you to your own reflections on these words.
First, I want to thank Allison for bringing this hymn to my attention. It's written by Carolyn Winfrey Gillette, and we sing quite a few of her songs, but I hadn't seen this one. The sad thing is it wasn't written in response to the Uvalde shooting. It was written 5 years ago in response to another shooting. The other thing I want to share is something that I got from Jim. We were talking one day about all this stuff and how often we hear the phrase speaking truth to power. Everybody says, yeah, that's what we should do. Well, Jim gave me an aha moment that I've never forgotten, and I'm going to give it to you, and I hope you never forget. The powerful already know the truth.
Let us start, as always, with the prayer concerns of our community. James is awaiting testing this week. Bob is in rehab, recovering from a very successful back surgery and making good progress. Sue is recovering from knee surgery. Amanda is undergoing hip replacement surgery this week. We've got lots of orthopedic things going on here. Others await test results. Bill is continuing with further tests. We are celebrating Yvonne's graduation from middle school. And we give thanks for all the volunteers who worked yesterday to give food to 80 families, 5 of which were new, covering 324 people who will eat this week because of their efforts. Let us gather now in prayer. Today we gather feeling discouraged. It seems as if our hearts cannot bear one more absolutely horrific mass shooting. We lift up the families of all the victims of senseless killing in Buffalo and Uvalde in California. Each time this happens, we say never again. But deep down, do we believe that? Or have we lost hope? Is our government so broken that it will not protect us from ourselves? We're discouraged because the war continues in Ukraine and the atrocities they see daily are unimaginable. We're discouraged because our rights are being attacked, the rights to our own bodies, the right to love who we want, the right to be the gender we believe we are. We're discouraged because of challenges with illness and aging and loss. We're discouraged because prices for necessities are rising. We're discouraged because people are still without homes and people are still hungry. And we're discouraged because there's so much work to do to bring justice to this world. And it feels like not enough people care. Do our efforts matter? Do protests work? What about our phone calls and emails and letters to legislators? Yes, we are discouraged. But help us to remember that we are fighting the long game, not the short game. We may not see the results of our efforts, but we will know that we have tried. And as Jim talked about, we are not alone in our struggle, working to make this world more just. We are working together with all those that are in this room and that are virtually on this, in this service. We are with all those in our community. We are with those in the nation, and we are with others in the world, all striving together for justice. We are not alone. And most importantly, the spirit of love is with each of us every day, giving us courage when we need it, giving us rest when we need it. Help us to find moments of joy amidst the pain. Nature, family, friends, music, art, exercise. Whatever gives you joy, cling to moments of it daily. would finally help us to practice gratitude. There is always something we can be thankful for. So let us lift that up. Each day, find a time to remember what you are grateful for. Maybe in the morning before you climb out of bed, or some other time during the day, or at night as you climb into bed. But remember that there is joy and gratitude and community that helps us wake up each morning. Amen.
As Carolyn said, I always like to begin our offering time with thinking about what we are grateful for, the blessings that we have in our lives. Sometimes it's grateful for the things that we don't have in our lives. The violence that so many are experiencing all over the world. If you have shelter, that's certainly something to be grateful for, isn't it? If you have running water. So think about those kinds of things as we come to our offering, and know that there are many, many ways to give to the community, to this church, and to the world. Might be talent, might be prayers, might be presence, it might be resources. There are many ways to do that. So please join me in our offering dedication. May our compassion, is it up? Okay. May our compassion for others, both locally and globally, inspire our giving. May our hearts and our horizons be expanded by our gifts of time, talent, and resources. We dedicate our offering to support the ministries of St. Andrew's and affect change in our world. Will the ushers please come forward? Please rise as you're able.
Thank you. It's your choice if you want to stand or be seated. We're going to have a congregational meeting. It's very brief, but if your legs are tired, do what you need to do. One of the reasons that I joined the Presbyterian denomination is because it's a democracy, which means, first of all, I'm not any more powerful than anybody else in the congregation. If you didn't figure that out already by seeing everybody tell me what to do. But I wouldn't want to be a part of a church that just took what I said. I bet there are people behind me. Yay. Thank you, everybody. Oops, I guess you're that way. So if everybody is certainly welcome to the meeting. One of it's like if you're a friend of St. Andrews, you're welcome to everything we do. The only thing is that to vote, to either run for office, to hold office or to vote, you need to be a member. So if you could just like smile, if you're not, everything else you can do. So we come now to, we're going to elect the nominating committee. And David will tell you who they are, but these are the people that will be choosing the leaders for the next year or so.
It's afternoon, so good afternoon. I'm Dave Rackley, and most of you know me, been around a long time. I am the acting clerk today. When I graduated from session in December, I was told I was a relaxing elder. I'm still waiting for that. But as acting clerk, I have the privilege of presenting the slate proposed by the current nominating committee. The slate for the future nominating committee will identify individuals and present to you a slate of folks that will be leaders in the church for the coming years. The proposed chair of the new nominating committee will be Diana Silva. If you're here, raise your hand. The co-chair is proposed to be Steve Landsman. Thank you, Steve. Members of the committee are proposed to be Mary Groff.
She just left.
She just left. She's already busy. Another member, Allison Thompson. Okay, see, we put them to work already. There is no relaxation. Paul Davis. Laney Rathgaber. Thank you, Laney. And Bruce Jones. Okay, that's the slate for the proposed nominating committee for this year.
Thank you, David.
Oh, and one question for quorum notes. If you're a member, please raise your hand. Thank you.
And if you're on Zoom, you can vote. If you're a member, just do the little hand thing. I mean, either wave your hand or push the little symbol of. But before we can vote, being Presbyterian means that you can nominate somebody from the floor. The only thing we ask is that you've told them first, so they don't freak out in front of us. Is there anybody that you'd like to nominate in addition to this slate? Would anybody like to move that we accept this slate and vote on them all together? Okay. Thank you. Did you get that?
I did.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Opposed by the same sign. And let's see, would y'all show again the hands on Zoom? 1, 2, 3. Looks like. So 3 positive votes. Are there
Got
any
it.
negative? 4 positive votes. Thank you. So, and thank you all, the rest of you, for being here. This has been very nice. Well, we come now to the benediction. So you're almost home. This is a really hard time. And I think realizing that hope isn't an emotion, you're not always going to feel it as such. But if you have the habit of choosing your highest value over things that you feel that betray who you are, if in the light of like pain and despair and all of that, you choose hope. Maybe you can't feel it yet, but that you choose to give your life. Some of the best teachers ever had were on their deathbed. People that could barely move in a retirement center. You have no idea the difference that you make in the world. So to realize that you are, the church says Jesus was the light of the world. Jesus said, you're the light of the world. And I don't think he was exaggerating. None of us has any sense of the difference that we make in the world just by being who we are. So as you go out into this week, please know that just your presence will make a difference and that you are part of bringing in the world for which we all hope. So in all of the sacred names of love, go in peace.
Please rise as you're able.